Hi, Mr. B. It's Jane.
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. You having beautiful weather in Wisconsin today?
Yeah, it's better than yesterday, which was like 20 degrees. So, today it's in the 30s. So.
Oh, that's good. Did you get snow yesterday?
Just a little dusting. It was a light dusting in the
good.
morning. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't like anything intense, but we're just preparing for the cold weather, though. We know it's coming.
You got it. So. Yep. You better get ready because it's coming, right?
I know. It always does.
Good deal.
It always does. Okay. Well, thanks for letting me call you. I texted Lauren first to see if she knew what you were up to, and she said that you guys in Buffalo?
We did. We were in Buffalo yesterday, and we drove back somewhat late last night. We actually got through a ton of snow. We were coming down, along Lake Erie.
Right.
Got to Erie, PA, and they had 9 inches yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was already piled up there. That's why I thought you might have had some too.
Jeez, well, definitely not 9. Oh my gosh. How's Sid doing?
Yeah.
Is she good?
She's good. Yeah, she's kind of. I think she's kind of burnt out with rowing. She's just kind of done. She was just. And I think she's kind of just tired of Buffalo. Tired of being there, just ready for a change of scenery. But overall, she's doing good.
Oh, that's good. So was it just like a quick little visit? Did Miss Bichsel go up too?
Yeah, we hadn't seen her for a while. We went to one race kind of midway through this fall season, and we saw her there. You know how the races are. You just see them. Hi, hey,
right, yeah.
Love. Here's $50. Go. We'll see you soon.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the only time we really saw her this fall. So she called and said, "Why don't you come up?" She said, "It's just I really don't have a whole lot going on this weekend." She had practice Saturday morning, but she said, "Come up, we're just going to do something." And so that's all we did.
Aw.
It was nice.
Yeah. I can. I mean, we started at the same time, and honestly, I'm feeling a little bit of the same. It's just been so long.
I wondered.
It's just been so long. Like it's been since 8th grade for both of us.
I know. I know. It's been a long time. You guys have really stuck it out. I'm so impressed.
I know.
Man, oh man, I don't know how you do it.
Hey, I don't know either. Who knows?
Yep.
Okay, so I just have a few just like very basic questions that I know the answer to, but for the purposes of the, assignment, I'm going to ask anyway.
Yeah, sure.
So how about you just start with like where you went to school, your background, like what you did before the confectionery, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, way back, I was born and raised on a farm, so I spent a lot of time on a beef and pig farm, and we raised a lot of crops on those farms. So I have an agricultural background. Our family, my grandfather started a dairy in the 1920s, and then my father and his brother ran it for 50 years, and then me and my brothers were involved in that same dairy for many years. I was there. We grew up with the business, but officially working there as a responsible person. I was there for about 15 years, and then we sold that manufacturing plant where we manufactured milk and ice cream, those sort of things. And Mrs. Bichsel and I, we decided it was time to try something different, so we moved to Pittsburgh. She got a thing with Pitt to do her doctoral program, and I was still working for the family business, mainly just selling off some of the assets, meaning the inventory that we had in a bunch of stores, the equipment that we had in a bunch of stores, and then the actual real estate, followed after that, the store buildings themselves. Right.
And you went to Ohio State, didn't you?
Yep, Ohio State University, College of Agriculture. It was nutrition.
Is that still like the same program? Do you know if it's any different from like when you went?
Yeah, it's a little different. They now call it. It's still in the College of Agriculture, but it's now in a Department of Food and Environmental Sciences.
Right.
And it's I think they still have a food science specific, just a food science degree. But I haven't looked for a while to see what specifically it is called now.
Right. So when you moved to Sewickley, what was, not even in relation to like the confectionery, but what was your goal, like, moving to Sewickley? Like, was it on your radar to try and get into what you're doing now, or was it something completely different?
Really, it was very different because, working for a family business, that was just, we were selling it off. We were selling off all the assets of it. It was just a time where I could have made a completely different change and done something totally different.
Right.
Or I could have, stayed within the industry. And because my background is so diverse, what I grew up with and what I was doing, I did dabble in a few things. Like I ran a bunch of convenience stores in the Pittsburgh market because that was my day job for the family business. I ran the retail stores where we had 13 ice cream and dairy, that were also convenience stores. So we sold, milk and eggs and cheese and ice cream, but we also had, gasoline at the gas stations, and we had, pop and beer and cigarettes and lottery and all those kind of things as well. But, when we moved, it was just kind of a thing to just change the scenery and have an opportunity to kind of start over.
Right.
So that's kind of what we did.
Right. So what was the initial, like, you acquiring the confectionery? Like, how did that go down?
So what I did is I ran some convenience stores for a couple of years, and that's a really very demanding, very difficult, business to be in, because there's a lot of turnover and there's a lot of theft and there's drugs and there's, it's just not a safe environment always. So I got out of that, and I ran an ice cream manufacturing plant in downtown Pittsburgh, which was called Reinhold Ice Cream.
I remember.
And so I was the general manager of that ice cream manufacturing facility, and they had about between 30 and 40 employees, and we manufactured ice cream there. And having being involved in that, I knew where all the ice cream customers were. I knew who bought a lot of ice cream. I knew what they bought. I knew most of the owners because I was dealing with all that kind of stuff. And of course, being the fact that we lived in Sewickley, we would go to the confectionery quite often.
Right.
And so it was just a matter of keeping a conversation going with the existing owner and saying, hey, if at some point you want to sell that business, let me know, because in starting over, when I left the family business, I moved here without anything really. It was just kind of, I had no contacts in the industry. I had no accountants. I had no bank relationships. I had no lawyers. I had nothing like that, like I did back in Ohio.
Right.
So it was just a good way, to buy somebody else's business was just a good way to kind of get me started, to be able to work independently again.
Right. And what were your initial goals, like, right from the beginning with the confectionery?
That was mainly the main thing was just being able to start being, I hate using the word, but to start being an entrepreneur again, where I don't have to work for somebody else. Right. I've always worked, for myself. And so to be able to buy a very small business like the confectionery was a way for me to get all those things started again, where I needed an attorney, I needed an accountant, I needed a banking relationship so that I could, have a base of business to work from.
And
does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And as it's grown, how have your goals changed just over the years with all the new products and programs that you've tried to develop there? How have your goals changed, would you say, from the beginning to where you are now?
Yeah, from establishing a base of business, there's a lot of different strategies that people could take to run or grow their business. One thing I've always wanted to do is just kind of grow a brand, whatever that might mean.
Right.
So it was kind of a Sewickley Confectionery brand that I wanted to make it a, kind of the go-to, place to be, or the go-to place to stop for something, or that sort of thing. So that was one thing. I wanted to grow the brand.
Right.
The second thing, and the most important thing for me, without it ever kind of being a public knowledge kind of thing, just my driving force is I wanted to create this base of business so that ultimately I could buy the real estate that I'm involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So like the actual building that the Sewickley Confectionery is in, it's my goal to be able to buy that, a pretty sizable chunk of real estate, so that ultimately when I'm done, or I can't do the confectionery work, or don't want to do that kind of work anymore, then I'll have a very large asset that I've been able to take away from that business.
Okay. Right, because you're renting it, right?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so, some people, they'll say, hey, I want to have 15 stores and be the ice cream, person in the region. Or some say, I just want to manufacture, ice cream and use this store as my launching pad for that.
Right.
For me, it's always, I've had multiple stores before,
mm-hmm.
and it's tough. It's tough.
Right.
I've manufactured ice cream before, and it's very expensive to get into that business. It's extremely expensive. It's very volatile, and it's, you're basing a lot of things off of a lot of, what you have to trust a lot of people to be able to, to not poison people or not kill people, or to not, make something that's crappy or whatever. So
mm-hmm.
I've been down that road before too. So for me, it's just been, how can I use this business to acquire real estate, which will ultimately be my retirement.
Right. So, yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So, would you do it again? Would you, branch out, or maybe try and do a similar thing with what you did at the confectionery, take over another store, or are you fine with just the one store?
I like just the one store. For me, because I've already done all those other things where I've ran multiple stores, and we've had, many properties that we owned that
mm-hmm.
were part of it. Because I've had, literally hundreds of employees working for me.
Right.
And we've also had where we did manufacture really good ice cream, and we were really proud of it. And we were, really, it was just part of our lives. I've done all those things. So the one thing I didn't have is, and working for yourself in a very, very small business,
mm-hmm.
a very difficult thing to have is either healthcare benefits or any sort of a long-term retirement savings plan.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So for me, I really had to have something, to come out of this whole thing. And for me, it was, let's go after the real estate. And one of the main reasons why, James, is because, Sewickley has a very dynamic real estate market.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so any little building in the little village of Sewickley is worth a lot of money, and I've watched the value of these properties appreciate very rapidly.
Right.
So anytime anytime you have an opportunity to buy a sizable chunk of real estate, whether it's commercial or residential, in Sewickley, it's been a very good investment.
Right.
So that's why it led me to that. And so to do it again, I wouldn't do all those other things again. Would I do another real estate venture? Yes, if I could find a way for this business or some other business to pay for it.
Right.
That's my strategy.
Right. And even in Sewickley too, just the turnovers of stores year to year, it's crazy. I feel like every time I come back, for the summer, it's just a completely new strip of stores that I've just never seen before. It's crazy.
Yep.
What is
Yep.
what is the
some leave and
yeah,
new ones come in.
right. What is the rent like on Beaver?
It varies dramatically.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you that my rent, in comparison to most, if not all, other stores, is very, very low.
Mm.
And you know, and if you want actual numbers, I mean, I pay less than $1,400 per month, so it's like $1,375 or something like that per month is my rent. Whereas a store like Monticello's or like the liquor store, you know,
right.
those stores, you know, they're getting, you know, $8,000 and $9,000 a month in rent.
Whoa,
yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
It's very broad. You know, and obviously there's a lot of differences.
Sure.
But in my building, you know, you got to look at the whole thing. You know, there's my store.
Right.
There's 2 other offices on the first floor.
Yeah.
And then there's 5 offices across the top floor.
Mm.
So if you add all that up,
right,
as you know, as a lump sum, you can see that you know, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a month is coming in. It's just coming in
different places,
smaller.
Right.
Yeah, smaller places.
Right. Wow, that's crazy.
I
had no idea. Wow. Okay, so what would you say have been the outcomes, positive or negative, of this business, even like product wise, expansion wise? Just like, what do you feel like the outcomes of this business have been at this point?
Well, one of the most difficult things that I deal with, and I know this from experience, is that it's a very seasonal business.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, you think about it, we're dealing with ice cream, and ice cream is a very seasonal. You know, it's predominantly a summertime, you know, driving business where we generate a lot of cash in the summertime.
Right.
And then, you know, as the fall and the winter comes along, that cash starts to dry up, and it becomes difficult to maintain any high level of what we call overhead.
Sure.
So if you have a big mortgage, if you have a big rent number, if you have a lot of expenses, if you have a lot of employees, you have a big electric bill, you have all those things which we tend to have. You know, you have to really scale your business back dramatically in the slow time, and you have to be quick to respond. You know, once the sales start to decline.
Right.
So it doesn't allow for rapid expansion because it's so seasonal.
Right.
So you can't go. It's very difficult to go out and have, you know, 1 store, 2 stores, 3 stores over the course of, you know, 4 or 5 years, because, you know, you generate cash in the summertime and you don't generate cash in the wintertime. And if you make one bad decision and you have a store that underperforms your expectations,
right,
then you can really ruin. You can wreck your entire business. You know, your whole business model that way. And I've been down that road before, and I didn't want to do it again. So again, that's why 1 store, you know, make a brand, make it the destination, and you know, do the real estate play, as I call it.
Right.
You know, that's my strategy.
Right. So even like with you adding in, like, selling milk in the CSA boxes and like having the kids grow, like not grow, but have the tomato plants out in the summer, would you say that this might just be from an outside perspective, but one of the outcomes is you making it more of an essential place to go, not just for ice cream, but for other products as well? So it can be, you can have more, you can generate more cash flow throughout the year instead of just having your customers buy ice cream in the summer. They can come in at any time. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, very much so. You know, especially with milk, because, you know, when I first bought the confectionery, it was, you know, it was really on the low end of its offering.
Right.
It did not generate much cash. It didn't have much of a product selection other than just ice cream and gelato.
Yeah.
And I knew very quickly that it was going to take more than that to survive. So the milk in particular is one of those things that you can use because, people buy milk every week.
Sure.
Milk has a very short shelf life, 16 to 18 days, something like that. So people, families, whatever, tend to buy milk every day. So if you can find a niche product like we did with Brunton's glass bottled milk,
right?
People have to come in and buy that every single week, and so we can tend to expect a return customer every week. Whereas with the ice cream, it's just a treat.
Right.
You come in and treat yourself when it's hot outside or when it's nice out, and you want to go looking for something to do. Well, guess what? In the wintertime, that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah.
So milk is something that is an essential where people have to come in and get milk. I took it one step further and said, okay, I've got this milk, and it's something that people like. Why don't we go one step further and take that to their homes?
Sure. Yeah.
So the home delivery piece came about and said, okay, we're going to sign you up as a home delivery customer, or would you like to sign up as a home delivery customer? And then, once we got them on the hook, so to speak, then they're our customer every single week.
Right.
They very rarely deviate from their order that they get every week.
Right.
And so rather than hoping that they come back into our store to buy our milk, we're taking it to them where, it adds a value to us, to our business, because we charge a little bit more for it. Mm-hmm. But it also, the loyalty is tremendous because they don't deviate from the plan, so to speak.
Right. How many customers, or I guess households, do you have right now on your home delivery list?
Home delivery customers is probably about like 75.
75?
Yeah, and honestly, that's something that I could grow it, quite a bit. But because of the way I ran my business when I kind of just started some of this stuff, what I did is it was just word of mouth. Those people that truly wanted, that type of service where it's delivered to their house. There's a certain prestige to it.
Sure.
There's obviously a convenience to it. But there's kind of like that thing, that Sewickley thing where it's like, wow, this is the way we roll in Sewickley. I get milk delivered to my house.
What about the CSA boxes? How many people do you have signed up for that? And it's only in the summer, is it? Or is it year round?
It's designed to be primarily in the summer because, it is another seasonal piece, which I don't like that about that business. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking for a way of expanding the offering so that it's not just a summertime thing. I'm looking for, a way to develop it into something where it is year round. I do have like 45 home delivery or 45 CSA customers. Mm-hmm. And so it's just a matter of me going and picking up all these different, fruits and vegetables and even meats and things like that and bringing it back to a central location, repacking everything, putting in these boxes, and then, we take those boxes out and drop them off at a couple different drop points around the city.
Right.
Anyway, we have a few of our home delivery customers here in Sewickley that get it. I just take it to their house. But around the rest of the city, we just drop it off at different host sites.
Oh, so it's further than just in Sewickley?
Yes.
Oh, really? Yes. Where's the farther? Where's the farthest?
I've got a drop in Lawrenceville. I've got a drop over in Gibsonia, and I've got a drop in Sealing Opal, and I've got a drop in Wexford and Cranberry, and I had one down in South Point, down in South, down in Washington, PA.
Yeah. Whoa.
So
how did they? Do they ever tell you how they hear your name or how they know what it is?
Well, a couple things. We do several things. One, I bought an existing business. That's what this guy was doing.
Oh, okay.
So my strategy on acquiring things tends to be, I'm not really good at a total startup of something.
Sure.
I'd like to buy something that already has a base of business
Right.
Because it's much easier to gauge and to predict what that business is capable of doing.
Sure.
So if you start with, $10,000 worth of sales, boy, that's not a bad way to start, because you're starting with something, and then it's just your job, my job to grow that.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's what I tend to do. I try to, I'll buy something that's already existing.
Right. So.
And so that helps in that respect.
Right. So you might have answered this before, but how did you realize that that's what you were good at?
I didn't realize that's what I was good at. Sometimes it feels like I'm not very good at it. But,
what makes you prefer that?
It's just honestly, it's just easier. I think it's just easier to start with, a base of business. Because a lot of those very difficult aspects of being a startup have already been ironed out.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're doing a startup, you're starting with nothing.
Right.
You've got nothing. You have no employees. You have no product. You have no base of business. You have no customer base. You have no marketing. You have no logo. You have no connections to the industry. It's just, you have nothing, zero.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I start with something very small, at least there's a base of business there. There's a product.
Right.
There's some marketing behind it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a logo. There's customers. There's, all these things are at least there. And so for me, I can take that, somebody's hard work, give them a couple dollars for their hard work and for the products that they produce, and then grow from there. Because I just, I think I have a bit of a vision for where to take, a product or a service or a customer, just because I've been around it a long time.
Right. Yeah. Where do you want to go moving forward with the confectionery?
Well, the main thing right now is to figure out what I'm going to do with this newly acquired, CSA model,
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole new business. That's my short term work that I have ahead of me.
Right.
The confectionery itself, I think I have it. I don't want to say maxed out, but I've kind of reached a saturation point, with the confectionery, because I grew the sales and I continue to grow them every single year. Ever since I bought the confectionery, I've grown the sales, at least 7% over the prior year.
Wow. Yeah.
So I've never had a down year, in the confectionery, and I'll continue to grow that, but I don't see a major, bump coming from that. So to acquire another business and incorporate it into this business
Mm-hmm.
is where my growth is going to come from. So that's the short term stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Long term, it comes back to the real estate.
Right.
Say, okay, can I generate enough income? Can I generate enough cash? Meaning ultimately turning into income, because you have to pay for all your expenses.
Sure.
Can I generate enough income to afford, a very sizable purchase of real estate?
Mm-hmm.
I've already done it with one property. I bought one other commercial building over in Leedsdale,
Uh-huh.
and I have to put all these pieces together so that maybe this business and that business and the asset that I have in Leedsdale will allow me to buy a much bigger investment.
Right.
That's my long-term play.
Right. What would you say is the social value of what you're doing? So, like, what's the community, the society getting out of the confectionery?
Well, we have a lot of things going on from a social standpoint. Meaning, we recycle our glass bottles for milk, for one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not a big environmental impact there.
Sure.
All of the farms that I deal with, all the products that I buy, with the exception of some of the ice cream, comes very local or
Right.
very almost hyper local, where it's so close that there's just very little cost associated with getting it there.
Sure.
Environmentally speaking, we try to be as sustainable as we hand with packaging and products that we use to serve our stuff with.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we're really very how do you say that word? Philanthropic.
Yep.
And we do a lot of things in the community with ice cream, where we're supporting, maybe this little boy that died, and the garden club, and
right.
the library, and all these different places. We do a lot of giving back in that way.
Right.
And with a lot of the local kids who work for the confectionery and for this other business too. So
right.
There's that.
Yeah, and from a relationship standpoint too, I think it's huge.
The what?
A relationship standpoint too, like building your loyal customers.
Oh,
Yeah,
within the community, there's a lot of loyalty and just a lot of mutual respect. They love to come in and see the kids that work there, and we love to have all our local customers. So
right. Yeah. Well, those are those are all the questions that I had lined up. But,
okay. What do you have
yeah.
to do with this information?
Oh, I'm in an entrepreneurial management class right now. So I have to type up a quick little 500-word profile on you.
Yep.
So when I got this, I was like, oh, I know who I'm going to call.
I know a guy.
I know a guy. It's so
cool.
It's so funny because whenever we're talking about what my parents do or something, no one ever believes me when I say that my mom works at an ice cream store. They're like, yeah,
I
know. They're like, yeah, right. I'm like,
yeah, right.
It's true.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't think she saw herself here 20 years ago, but here we are.
No, but she's always been attracted to the ice cream business. So I think she's always secretly wanted to own an ice cream store. So this is her way of doing it without the
Wait,
risk.
my mom did?
Yeah,
my mom has.
I think your mom and dad. Yeah.
She's always wanted to?
I think so. I think she's always wanted to have an ice cream store.
Well, she's good at it.
She is. She's really good at it. That's why she's there. That's why she's perfect for me to have around, because she gets it, and she's good at it.
Right. Wow. Well, she's currently on a plane right now, coming back.
Oh, are they coming home soon?
Yeah, they should be back later tonight, or at least that's what they said in the group meet.
Really?
Yeah, they've been sending pics of their little extravaganza over there in Europe.
Oh,
I know.
that is so cool. I'm glad they did that. That's nice. I'm glad that all worked out, because with Gracie being home and the boys are going to be, they're old enough now that, guys, you have to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, Grace forgot to wake up Gordy for school on Tuesday.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, and since he goes to Ole, she has to get a way earlier bus than the QV bus was.
Yeah.
So he usually, according to Grace, I called her right after it happened, and she said, "Jane, it was I think 9 a.m. I called her for some reason. She was like, Jane, I'm driving back from Ole. She'll never guess what happened. She was like, Gordy didn't wake up for school. It's 9 o'clock. He missed his first 3 classes. And Mom specifically told me to wake Gordy up at 6, but I didn't. So it's my fault, but also Gordy just sleeps through alarms and stuff. So Tuesday. It was
that's good.
The second
That's good
day.
for everybody, though. That's good stuff.
Oh my gosh. And she was like, yeah, mom literally told me, Grace, just get up at 6, make sure he's awake, then you can go back to sleep, but just make sure he's up and out of the door. And he slept in until 8:45.
Oh, crap.
I know. So glad I wasn't around for Mom having to hear about that. So.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
So what's your plan? What's your plan after graduation? What are you thinking right now? What's going on in your world?
Oh, geez.
You know yet?
I really don't know. I mean, I've applied for, like, Teach for America and for the Peace Corps just for fun to see if that works out. Yeah, I'm not sure. I really want to try and end up in DC somehow. Either going to grad school or possibly getting a coaching job at, like, a high school or a college, and then it would be great if I could get a coaching job at a college and then also go to school at that same place. So that would be a really good scenario. Especially because we have family in DC, I think you know, and they have a room downstairs, and they've already said that if I end up in DC, that I could live with them, which is like a major, like, you know, I wouldn't have to find housing or really pay as much as the rent would be in DC, and I just really like it down there, so I've been looking for, like, very entry-level basic jobs.
Yeah, some kind of opportunity there,
something there. Either with, like, government or nonprofits or an NGO or something. Yeah, so it's very unclear, but I might be in Madison for a year or 2 years. Who knows? I might go back to Pittsburgh, but I don't know. Living at home.
Well, Sid was thinking the same thing. She was thinking of AmeriCorps.
Oh,
because that's a 1 year stint.
Right.
And I think Peace Corps is at least 2 years, and that's abroad. That's
correct.
Usually international, right?
Correct. Yep.
So she was thinking 1 year, and then, you know, she's going to try to use whatever contact she has in the rowing world to maybe, you know, get like an assistantship or something like that where she's coaching and maybe doing grad school. So.
Wow, yeah, great minds think alike, you know? Yeah, I don't know.
Yep, you guys are very similar that way.
Yeah, I don't know.
You'll figure it out.
Hopefully. Every single time I call my dad and talk to him, he always brings it up.
I know.
Always.
I know. Just tell him I'm getting there, Dad. I'm working on it. I'll get there. Just let me get through this semester. You got one more semester to go, right?
Yeah. He's like, Tweeter, make sure you keep your options open. Don't.
That's right.
You know? I'm like, okay, Dad.
Yep.
We're trying over here, okay?
I know.
Okay, well, thanks for talking to me.
No problem. Anytime. If you need any follow-up, just send me a message or something like that. And, I can clarify anything for you.
Sounds good. Thanks so much. Tell everyone I said hi.
All right, we'll talk. Yep, I will do.
Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.